Hi, I'm Daniel, and Marty Supreme released almost 6 months ago now, and while it seems the hype has died down like all movies do, I still really love this movie as one of my favourite films from 2025, and what would my pick from last year's Best Picture lineup. It achieved this while being a sports movie, so I'm not normally a fan of, but yeah, what works about it is how it has parts of that sports underdog journey, while also questioning that through a main character who lies and cheats, but all the movie's middle spent without any ping pong. That makes when the ping pong comes back in the final act feel so electrifying, carried by the electronical score really elevating it. This is a very fun and stressful film that takes what works in the these previous films, Good Time and Uncut Gems, to the next level on a larger scale. I also find these three films are distinct in their main characters, whilst it's similar to the character making things worse for themselves than others. Marty Mauser is made far more sympathetic and redeemable. On the scale of likeable and unlikable characters, he's right in the middle. Even if it's easy to see from outside looking in that he's not a good person, it's hard not to root for him, both to sort things out and to win the game. Leaving an ending that can and has been interpreted in many ways. I wanted to discuss why this is, and what makes Marty Mauser such an iconic and compelling main character that makes this movie stick with me. I don't often discuss live action media, but I wanted to start making videos on them as well, and this seemed like a good place to start. This video contains spoilers, so it's best to watch the movie before watching this. But to give a recap, this film follows Marty Mauser, an aspiring table tennis player in New York, working for his uncle selling shoes to pay for a plane ticket. When that money isn't given to him, he steals it at gunpoint, well, steal by technicality, so he can go to a UK tournament. While there, he uses the money he expected to get from winning to pay for a hotel suite and several dinners, and then crashes out making a scene at the pacing second to Endo. This first act evidently sets up his overconfidence, and how he's a very argumentative person. It's his fault he's in debt, and creates your points and hope that it won't matter in long term. This gambler mindset he has expected to eventually break big, and his manipulative tendencies are prevalent from the beginning, as someone with a high opinion of himself but also would stoop low to make money. I love how he dismisses during the mid-show of the Globetrotters tour, only to later defend his importance to Rockwell, showing how all of his strong opinions can change on a dime if it's convenient for him. He refuses the opportunity to play a fake match against Endo, but later changes on that when he needs to wait to get to Japan. He also insults Rockwell's son dying in war that really damaged any potential working relationship they could have had, all because his ego was damaged. For as much as Rockwell is a terrible rich person, a lot of his problems could have been avoided by taking this deal, or just not saying that comment to show they have some level of mutual interest. Marty is only in things for himself and his own self-goals, not that he can't care about others, but he mainly acts for what will be best for him. He is the epitome of selfishness. Contrasted by the Holocaust honey flashback scene, showing the pure selflessness of bearing yourself to others. The aftermath in the Holocaust in the decade following led to two separate sides of building more community for protection, or those like Marty internalize how the world is against him, and I needs to act alone seeing others as obstacles. It's interesting how the context of being Jewish in 1950s New York added to Marty's character, as he says where I'm from is every man for himself, and his method of taking from someone before asking for help directly. This movie is an introspection of selfishness as an ideology to live by. He should come off very likeable and hard to root for, and to a lot of people who watched the film that was too much. However, he's also just very funny at the same time, with a lot of his schemes and a lot of what he says. Stuff like him proclaiming himself as Hitler's worst nightmare, and him declaring his importance as what an American winner would do for this sport. The dialogue and Timothée Chalamet's performance does a lot in making him believe he annoying to the characters but not to the audience, and the fast-speaking energy is hard not to latch onto. Showing this story from his perspective with all the potential consequences if it goes wrong goes a long way in making him want to succeed. But I find there's something more here than that. A lot of the problems are caused by Marty himself, who does a long list of bad things like scamming people, carelessly using that gangster's dog, and having a relationship with these two married women. However, it's also notable how not every issue is his fault, and the odds are against him in ways. Mainly in his uncle, who offered him manager knowing he didn't want this job long term, and tried to avoid paying him. Granted, he missed a workday and ignored his mother, but this act also showed direct opposition to his goals, and that's affirmed later, with him trying to press charges or force him to give up this dream and give a boring life selling shoes. For as much as Marty is over his head, he is still one of the best players in the world of a growing sport, which he was expected to give up to become an adult. I find the main reason why I want to root for Marty despite everything he does is through his dream. His passion and determination to pursue that feels in some way admirable. It just comes at a cost when trying to accomplish that at this previous position. This goal means more than just having financial success and being the best, but I want to mean something and be something in one's life. It's hard to let that one go and have that need to feel fulfilled. Wanting to add something to the world as an icon in some way fuels your motivations. This story is also about him being in his early 20s and facing adulthood, and not wanting to use that dream of grandeur in the process. The middle of this movie, away from ping pong needing to get money and other chaos that devolves from there, works very well on Yokta's challenges. This is like the triumph of an underdog sports movie, with the hustling replacing what will be training with a mentor in another movie. It also shows the hurdles of adulthood needing to give a young get work, support a family as something he doesn't want. He is in no position to settle down, is why he says to Rachel, in this rant about his purpose, and if you think that to be anything, it's not. His goal of playing ping pong has so much in the way that he barely gets a free moment of play in this entire over hour of the movie. Kay Stone plays an interesting role as a contrast to Marty, and despite being a famous former actress, it's the character who grounds the movie. IR specifics aren't fully known about her, just as she stopped acting to be Rockwell's wife and the officer in the war, and is sleeping with someone far younger. What Trey feels most notable is her cynicism when questioning Marty's goals and if he has a backup plan. Her conclusion is yet vague, with her seen crying about her new show's reviews, but I think it's also due about more things about her life. She showed that unfulfillment carried over later into life from letting go of that dream, and showing a different reaction to failure rather than Marty viewing it as a challenge. Their interactions also highlight how Marty is both optimistic and cynical at the same time, following the expectation that things will work out, but he needs to cross others or DPO to do it. Which leads to Milton Rockwell, who he has to beg for another chance with, which he eventually gets. When in Japan, he finds out he isn't allowed in a tournament, and this was all for nothing, leading to him demanding for a rematch real game around Endo, and it ends up happening. Rockwell still wants him to use and tells him he's a vampire who's seen many Marty Mauser over the years to get him to back down. He refuses, and that confidence to pull against the worst person feels very fun to watch. He ends up winning the game, leading to him feeling something different as he falls down to the floor. And that satisfaction, this has him win the game and get a happy ending, return to the US to see his baby is ready to call his, and crying looking at his child. Is this meant to be a true victory? And if it is it deserved? One thing I found very clear is that compared to the previous two Saturday protagonists, Marty is meant to be the most likeable. Connie in Good Time is obviously the worst of the three. For one reason where if you've seen the movie you would know. Even looking to Howard in Uncut Gems as a more cynic person, as a hustier who likes to win. The big "this is how I win" scene near the end of the film shows inherent cruelty to his drive to win, through him taking piss from others being wrong, and Kevin Garnett's reaction to contrast it against that does a yacht. And that turn ultimately justified the character's ending in the film. In contrast, Marty embracing Endo after the game doesn't feel like boasting or wanting to win tournaments so he can beat the best to me. It feels like he genuinely respects him as an opponent. I don't think this movie is meant to make Marty in any way irredeemable, or forever doomed to be this way. While he screwed over Wyatt and got his car destroyed, he still seemed happy to see him a couple of days later. At the same time, something to clarify is that Marty Supreme isn't meant to be looked at with Marty as some hero who makes it big. All he does is win one game in an event to sell pens and remains out of the tournament. However, that might have been all he needed to feel achieved and fulfilled in this point of his life. I understand why some would think this is a false happy ending, with his toxic cycles going to repeat and him crying realizing his life is over. The song lyrics "Welcome to your life, there's no turning back" can come off a certain way. However, I mainly see this showing him ready to be a father and care about more than just himself. The emotions finally being let out, and the arc around entering adulthood is expressed through his ending really well. What happens after is left open, but that's okay. He has shown skills as a great salesman, out acting that one actor in the play, and even table tennis can still be used to make money. It just matters he reached the point of seeing it as a job rather than a personal need. This ending also works for Rachel, who was also scheming towards the goal of getting Marty to settle down with her, which was also accomplished even if this ending isn't really focused on her character. Marty Mauser just comes off so deeply human with his goals and flaws, that it still feels good to see him reach this point, even as a character who's not often present. I don't think it was fully shown the ending at first, with me expecting to go around a more similar route like Uncle Gemma's did, but I'm glad it didn't. The youthful angle of this character's journey is made so distinctly different despite both movies serving similar similarities. In conclusion, Marty Supreme is such an electrifying and satisfying film that has stuck with me a lot since I first watched it. I was very excited to write about this movie more in this analysis. There's other action movies I could do videos on, but it might be harder as I use still images, and animated movies are naturally better fit for stills. Anyway, I've got some more videos in production to come out soon. I hope you enjoyed this video and hear my analysis of this movie. The end.